What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and unit review of the Bridal banner featuring Bride Tiki, Bride Anna, Flavia and also Say'ri. So Bride Tiki is definitely going to be the star of this banner as a colorless armored dragon, and she's going to be a really strong far-safe tank with Twin Divine Stone as her preferred weapon. This gives her -1 special cooldown and it does have effective damage against dragons. And if she's at or above 25% HP, then she can get +5 to all of her stats and also heal up 7 HP after the combat. And she does have a resistance check, which does allow her to get a guaranteed follow-up attack in the combat, and also has Dragon Wall built in, so she can get damage reduction from this weapon. And if she's got resistance more than foe's resistance +5, then she's able to get the scowl effect that we have seen on the scowl skill, and also the decharging that we have seen on Ascended Young Tiki, on Duoduma, and of course firstly on Brave Tiki. So it is really good because she's not going to be prone to getting hit by pre-charged specials, and then she can also give herself the -1 special cooldown before foe's first attack. So it is going to be really reminiscent of what Brave Tiki can do, and here she can pretty much do that in an armor version, and she's also got access to a lot of the armor skills. So yeah, Bride Tiki is overall going to be functioning really well with this weapon, and she also has New Divinity to go along with it, which is the preferred skill that we saw on Brave Tiki, which does inflict -5 resistance and attack debuff on the foe, and has another layer of damage reduction with the Dragon Wall built in. And it also has the follow-up negation effect built in, so that can help her in many of the matchups. And then we see a new skill in Armored Flow on Bridal Tiki, which is basically a resistance version of Armored Beacon. So this is going to be helpful for a unit like Bridal Tiki, who does have a bit more resistance than defense. There's also Nagi and a couple of other units that do have more resistance than their defense. So Armored Flow can be a better special for them so that they can get more damage out of their higher defensive stat. And this is also going to be helping them get the damage reduction, which is not pierceable by Deadeye or Lethality. So this kind of special is perfect for Tiki because she's not going to be running Hardy Fighter in her slot B. She is going to be using her New Divinity, which is going to be providing her the damage reduction. Armored Flow does give you a bit different damage reduction than the regular damage reduction from her slot B and from her weapon. And it's basically like a weaker Iceberg, but it's still going to be hitting really hard with her high resistance of base 45, which does have a super boon. And then she does have a harmonic skill, being a harmonic unit. So she's not going to be the best unit for resonant battles because of her mobility, but still, this kind of harmonic skill can be useful in other game modes like Summoner Duels, for example, or in Arena Assault, Arena, PvE content, stuff like that. So it is going to be restricted to the Awakening and Arcanea units, and she's able to give them and herself the Resonant Shields effect, and also the Dull All effect, which is a status effect that we have seen with Veluria and Valentine Lucina, and she also has the debuff neutralization status from this, which is going to be helping her not get absolutely destroyed by the debuffs, and is something that we have seen from Peony's new weapon Refine and Remix. Overall, this is a pretty nice harmonic skill, and you can use it twice actually in a Summoner Duels match, so that does help with the action economy for that game mode, and that's pretty much where the duo and harmonic skills are most easily useful and are really influential as well. So this is a pretty good one because debuffs can be there with units like Mark, for example, and a lot of times people do use the visible buffs, so the Dull All and the debuff neutralization effect can be useful defensively. Overall, I do feel like Bridal Tiki is a top tier unit and also one of the best far safe tanks in the game right now. And I've used Duoduma quite a lot, and I just feel like Bridal Tiki is an upgrade from him, as she does have even more effects and also has New Divinity to go along with it. So Duoduma has been, one of the more premier far safe tanks, and Bridal Tiki takes it even further with the damage reduction that she can get from her weapon and also the other effects that she has got. And the scowl effect is definitely pretty good for delaying the specials of the enemies that may have pre-charged Lethality like Yuri or pre-charged Deadeye like Duochrome, but you definitely have to watch out for a lot of the high resistance nukes which are definitely in the game, like Arvel. So you have to watch out for that because it is going to be based on the resistance check. So stacking up the resistance on Tiki is going to be extremely important so that she doesn't really lose to those kinds of specials. And then she does have a lot of damage reduction from her weapon and New Divinity, and Armored Flow also providing her even more damage reduction. She also has the self-sustain from her weapon, which is also really useful, and she's gonna be an amazing far-safe tank for Aether Raids offense, especially in the Astro season where there's not gonna be any kind of Embla, and in Summoner Duels, she's also gonna be performing as a pretty good far-safe tank, dealing with a lot of the threats and also using the Scowl effect to a good use. She does have pretty good bulk with base 40 defense and base 45 resistance, and she does have decent enough attack at base 42 to one-shot a lot of units, especially with that adaptive damage that she can get. And she doesn't really have the highest HP obviously, but still, she's gonna be a pretty bulky dragon and an amazing far-safe tank. Tiki does come with far save in her base kit, but doesn't really have any kind of distant counter skill, so distant counter dragon is just a given sacred seal for her, and you can easily run that and just retaliate back to the ranged units. You can also run some other skills on slot A if you want to. Attack Res Unity is definitely going to be one of those skills which you can run because she is going to be really valuing her resistance for the resistance check from her weapon for the Scowl effect, of course. And if you are going to be facing the resistance debuffs, then Attack Res Unity can really help you. It might seem a bit counterproductive with her Harmonic skill, which does give her the debuff neutralization, but if you're going to be using Tiki in something like Aether Raids offense, then you're not really going to be able to use Harmonic skill that easily against pretty much any kind of good team who's going to be having Duo's Hindrance. So that's why the Unity skill can definitely be helpful. And there's a lot of debuffs going on with stuff like Mark and Legendary Male Robin. And especially Dark Shrine can be annoying, so that's why you can run the Unity skill. And can be really helpful in something like Aether Raids offense. And you can even stack up Unity effect with Grand Strategy and just make her even more bulky and also hit harder. Attack Res Unity can be a good skill, even though she's going to be missing out on the guard effect from Mirror Stance 3. Distant Defense 4 is also something that you can run in her slot A, and again, this is something that kind of overlaps with her Harmonic skill, but again, you're not always going to be having the Harmonic skill active for the foe's buff neutralization. So this skill can be useful in Summoner Duels, and honestly, any of these builds can be run in Aether Raids offense or in Summoner Duels. She's going to be performing pretty well in any of those game modes. And like I said before, resistance is going to be very valuable, so if you can have it as a boon, then that is going to be really helpful. And if you're going to be spending a Floret on her, then attack is going to be the choice, as it also has a super boon, so it can definitely be helpful in one-shotting many of the opponents. Finally, if you do plus and merge Bridal Tiki, then she could be used in Arena as a far safe tank and also as a high scoring dragon unit with distant counter dragon sacred seal, which is 300 SP, and she does have 300 SP passives already, so she can be a high scoring unit. Of course, not scoring as much as Duo Duma. That's definitely where Duo Duma has got the edge, but still 205 BSC scoring is definitely pretty nice. Bridal Ana is a green bow cavalier with Heartbreaker bow as her preferred weapon. This has got Canto built in, so it is something that we have seen before on Thief Layla. So Canto Ally 2 does allow you to retreat to a space from the allies within 2 spaces, so it can be pretty helpful. And then she does have -1 special cooldown, and if she initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can get +5 to all of her stats, and then even more stats depending on the dragon flowers that you have given her. And this can go all the way up to +10 to all of these stats, so that can definitely help her get a lot of stats in the combat. And she can also deal true damage based on 15% of her speed, including the AoE specials. And then finally, she does have half null follow-up built in, which allows her to bypass the follow-up negation effects, which is going to be helpful as a nuke. And this Ana does have a base attack of 43, which is definitely pretty good. And it also has a super boon built in, and having base 46 speed is going to be making her a super speedy nuke, and it also helps her with the true damage that she gets from her weapon based on her speed. She does come with Remote Sparrow, which does give her 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack, and also Seal Defense 4, which can just give you more damage output. And Colorless Feud is always going to be useful, as we do have Fallen Maria and a lot of really good colorless units, so it's definitely one of the better feud skills to have. And overall, Bridal Ana is going to be functioning well as a bow cavalry nuke with that kind of offenses. She's not really going to be very bulky, but she does get the damage reduction from Remote Sparrow. And overall, this weapon is pretty solid, but ultimately, Ana is not going to be some kind of insane nuke that is going to be very meta influential, but still nonetheless, she is going to be a solid unit with this kind of weapon. For running Ana on a budget, you can definitely give her Blade Session as the Sacred Seal to go along with the player phase slotty skill that she has got. And keep in mind that she does have a weapon that does require Dragon Flowers, so more Dragon Flowers is going to be meaning more stats in the combat. So always keep that in mind while using Bridal Ana. And if you're going to be spending even more resources on her, outside of Dragon Flowers, then Deadeye can be a good special as it does become a 2 cooldown special, and because she already has Kanto in her weapon, and because she has the half version of Null Follow Up, she can easily run Wind Sweep and still double, so Wind Sweep does become an option that you can run for her slot B. And if you want a more mixed phase option or something different than Remote Sparrow, then Attack Speed Catch 4 is going to be an option that you can run. And Attack Speed Menace is also going to be a good debuffing option that does give you more speed for the true damage, and it can work with this kind of build. And this can be run with the 2 cooldown special with Moonbow or Ruptured Sky as well, but Deadeye is going to be helping you just pierce through the damage reduction, and it is something that you can give to her as she's going to be having decent enough damage output. You can also run her with a Fortress skill actually. Now, even though the Kanto does not really stack up, basically you're going to be having an option to either retreat 1 space back or retreat to the ally within 2 spaces. So the Fortress skill can basically give you that option. It's not really super needed, but if you want more options as a Cavalier, then it could still be something that you could run in her slot B, which does give her debuffs on speed and defense in both of the phases, and it basically just has more options for retreating with the Kanto effect. Of course, her own Kanto from her weapon and Fortress skill is completely nullified by Kanto control in something like Aether Raids offense or in Summoner Duels if you face those kinds of opponents. So this build can give you an additional option to retreat if you just don't want to retreat to an ally in 2 spaces, and it could be helpful as a cavalry unit. And you can also use her in Aether Raids defense on an Embla Cav line, as she could get the damage reduction from Remote Sparrow and run lull attack speed so that she can just nullify the attack and speed bonuses of the opponents. And Colorless Feud is always going to be helpful, and you can definitely run this as an option, but keep in mind that she's not going to be able to easily beat stuff like Brave Dimitris, which are really common as Omni tanks, but still she can function on an Embla Cav line if you really want to run her. I do feel like there are better options to be run, but still Anna could function in that role if you really want to, and she can definitely function decently well with a lull skill and the damage reduction from Remote Sparrow. You can also use her in Summoner Duels, and especially with Harmonic Sonia, Duo Asker, and a lot of the options that we have for these special charges, you could run her with an AoE build because she does get the true damage added to her AoE specials as well from her weapon, and that can help you just do more damage with the AoE specials. So that's definitely going to be an option. And in Summoner Duels, you are going to be seeing a lot more dragon units with, Distant Counter Dragon Sacred Seal. So Water Sweep does become an option. So you can run Quick Impulse and basically get the charges from Duo Asker's Duo Button and his Open Domain, or by running Harmonic Sonia, or by using Secret Maneuver Captain skill, which is available in Summoner Duels as of making this video. So all of those things can contribute to an AoE build. Flavia is a 4-star focus unit on this banner, and this time she is a Sword Cavalier. She does have Bridal Blade Plus as the inertable weapon, and this does give you +4 to all of your stats, and also in combat panic on the opponent. So it can be helpful if the opponents that are facing have visible buffs, so she can function decently well in something like Arena Assault for example. But if the opponent does not have any kind of visible buff, then you're not really going to be debuffing them, and there are certainly better weapons to be run on her like Petalfall, Blade Plus, or of course the Arcane Devourer if you do have that option. She does have amazing base speed at base 45 and also base 44 attack, so she can function well offensively, and she does have Attack Defense Clash 3 at 5-star and Rouse Attack Speed 3 at 4-star, so it could be helpful fodder for these skills that are above these prerequisite skills, and especially if you have a Rearmed Glyph available if you want to pass on the tier 4 version of the Clash skill. So it could be helpful, and overall she's going to be functioning as a pretty nice offensive Sword Cavalier and good merch project for the people who really like her. But overall I do feel like she's going to be facing competition from stuff like Brave Seliph obviously being in that same class, and Legendary Nana, and even Rearmed Chroma I would say, because he does have an exclusive assist which does give you more damage output. But still, if you're a big fan of her, she's going to be functioning well with those offensive stats, and especially if you give her the right weapon. So if you're going to be running Flavia on a budget, then you can give her the bootleg Kanto, as I like to call it, in Hit and Run. So it could work out, and you can just give her Moonbow and Attack Speed solo and Speed Refiner weapon, because she is going to be functioning decently well with the kind of speed that she has got. And again, doubling down on her speed is something you should be doing at high investment, and definitely giving her a better weapon in Arcane Devourer, which is going to be perfect for her with the kind of speed that she has got. So with the Null Follow-Up and these special charges, she's easily going to be able to run Gale Force, and you can also get Attack Speed Clash 4 at the same time. from Rearmed Chrome if you do have in your pain. So the Clash skill is going to be giving you the debuff neutralization to your attack and speed, and that is really helpful. And you can just run a Nia Trey skill in her slot B, and you could run tier 4 version of the Rouse skill if you want to, or even keep her default Rouse skill. Slot C is definitely flexible, and she's really going to be appreciating a better weapon in Arcane Devourer. If you cannot really give this weapon, then Petalfall Blade Plus is basically the next best option, because it does give you null follow-up. While it doesn't really have the other extra effects of the Arcane Devourer, it's still going to be decent enough until you get Arcane Devourer, which is going to be the endgame weapon for her. And because of these special charges, you can easily run her with a Surge Sparrow build and run a high cooldown special like Dragon Fang for example, and do a lot of damage with it and also heal up your HP with the Surge Sparrow. So this is going to be more of a player phase centric build, while the previous build is more for the mixed phase. If you want to go even further with the mixed phase options, then you can run Sweet Smoke 4 on her and stack up the damage reduction with Arcane Devourer and run Aether as a healing special. And attack speed catch 4 is something that you can run on her if you don't really have access to the Clash skill. But overall I would say that the Clash skill is going to be a bit better for most of the Cavaliers. But still this can definitely work out, and she can function in the mixed phase, getting even more damage reduction with her Slot C skill. The final unit on this banner is going to be Bridal Say'ri, and she is a Lance Flyer this time with Chauncey Sprig as the preferred weapon. This gives her minus on special cooldown, and if she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, then she's able to get +5 to all of her stats and also inflicts penalty on foe speed and defense depending on 25% of their visible attack stat subtracted by 8. And this can go all the way up to -10 speed and defense debuff on the opponent. So it can definitely help her with outspeeding a lot of the opponents, especially the ones which are going to be nukes with high attack stat, and also doing even more damage to them with the defense debuff. She does get 40% damage reduction from foe's first attack, and then finally, she does have special charges on both enemies' attacks and your own attacks. So this can help her trigger specials like Luna, Draconic Aura, Gale Force pretty easily. So I would say that this weapon is decent. I wouldn't really say that it's the most insane one. It's kind of adjacent to an arcane weapon, I would say, because if you really want, you could try and run Arcane Lewin as a decent side grade, as you can get the full null follow-up out of it while missing out on the speed debuff and the damage reduction that she gets out of it. Of course, the special charges. Arcane Xiang does have these special charges, but I feel like if you're really going to be giving her an arcane weapon, then Arcane Lewin is a bit better. But she can still function with her weapon with the speed debuffs that she can do. And she does come with a new skill in Speed Defense Rain Snap. So it does have the debuffs of a rain skill obviously, and then at start of turn, if she's within 2 spaces of an armored ally or a melee infantry unit, then she can give herself and those units +1 movement. So this is going to be really helpful to boost up the movements of your allies, especially for something like Aether Raids offense Gale Force. But most of the time, Guidance 4 is going to be a better support skill that you can run on a flyer, and it does let you teleport even your ranged infantry units, which, this skill doesn't really give the extra movement for. So I do feel like this is a decent option, and especially if you're a big Legendary Edelgard fan, then you can try and run this on one of the flyers and get the extra movement with Legendary Edelgard, and still run something else in her slot C other than Assault Troop. So it could be an option, but Guidance 4 is just so insane honestly as a support skill for flyers. So after we have seen Guidance 4, this does feel a bit whelming, but still it can have uses. And she does have Life and Death 4, which is kind of odd because Life and Death is mainly useful on like AoE builds where you have to have like the attack for doing the AoE damage, or if you want to meet some kind of attack check. Usually other skills are going to be better suited for slot A, so you can definitely try and give her other slot A skills which are going to be more beneficial and go well with her weapon and her offensive stat spread of 44 base attack, which does have a super boon and 46 base speed. So with the special charges that she has got in her weapon, at least she doesn't really have to run Heavy Blade Sacred Seal, and she can easily trigger Gale Force, which is going to be really helpful as a flying unit, and especially when she has got the extra movement from the Snap skill. If you want to run Say'ri on a budget, then you can definitely give her Desperation in her slot B, and with the damage reduction that she has got in her weapon, it's a lot easier to get into the Desperation range. You can also run Dive Bomb on her, and she doesn't really have to go through the trouble of falling into the range of the skill, and you can run this with a 2 cooldown special like Luna, and basically trigger the special on her double attack. But you can also run Moonbow because in case you face some kind of opponent with a guard skill, you're still going to be triggering your special on the double, so it could be an option that you can do. But I do feel like if you're going to be giving her a lot of investment, then Attack Speed Catch 4 is just a better slotty skill than Life and Death, as it doesn't really reduce your bulk and does give you more options for the mix phase. So you can run a Near Trace skill in her slot B and also run Gale Force, which is pretty easy to trigger with the special charges that she can get from her weapon, and especially with the extra mobility that she gets from her slot C skill. And you can also run her with a Clash skill, which is going to be really good because she does get the extra movement, so it's not really all that hard for her to utilize the skill. And you can also run Flow and Trace, which is going to be the optimal option with her weapon because she doesn't really have any kind of null follow-up in her weapon, so at least the partial null follow-up in the player phase is going to be helping you bypass the follow-up negation effect and Gale Force much better. You can also run her with a Surge Sparrow build so that she can trigger a high cooldown special like Dragon Fang, and it could be an option because she does get these special charges from her weapon, and this is more of a player phase centric build. And then finally, you can also run her with Guard Bearing 4 if you want to stack up the damage reduction with her weapon, and Guard Bearing 4 could be obtained at the same time if you're going to be giving her the Arcane Lewin weapon, which can be a decent side grade, and it's definitely something you can try out, especially if you invest heavily into Say'ri, and it could be one of the options that you can switch over for certain game modes. I hope you all enjoyed this banner review. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps you tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as the new snap skill for ranged infantry units. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.